Now, 7 News asked Governor Moore if Marylanders can afford the spending plan. He said yes, and also says that he won't raise taxes on the people of Maryland. And since this is an election year, Senator Hershey expects that he will keep that promise. It's what happens next year and the year after that that concerns him. And the governor also went into last year's legislative session saying that raising taxes was not a goal. And when the 90-day legislative session was over, Maryland taxpayers were on the hook for $1.6 billion in increased fees and taxes. How could the governor's budget impact Marylanders? Well, we bring in Pete Sepp right now. He is president of the National Taxpayers Union to break things down. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So tell me what your opinion is of the governor's budget proposal.
Well, I've lived in Maryland for almost 40 years now, and I can tell you this state is facing the worst fiscal crisis in those 40 years that I've ever seen. We have not only a taxing problem in that Maryland's tax system is already terribly uncompetitive. 46 on the Tax Foundation's competitiveness index, way worse burdens than Virginia, West Virginia, any state in the region, and we have a spending problem at the same time. Let's set party politics aside here. The Maryland operating budget has grown 50% in the last 5 years, so part of this growth preceded Wes Moore. The spending problem is bipartisan, and it's going to take bipartisan action to get it back under control.
The proposal comes as Marylanders face rising utility costs, and they're paying more for goods and services. How could this plan potentially impact Maryland households?
Well, there are a lot of ways. First of all, this money is not free. You can't simply spend your way to prosperity as the governor's budget is proposing. It's going to have to come from somewhere. The state's credit rating could suffer, for example, if excessive borrowing occurs. There's already been a slight downgrade by one of the 3 bond rating agencies in the state's credit, and the other 2 agencies are saying, well, unless spending, especially on education, gets under control, we're going to consider downgrades too. That means it'll cost more to borrow money. That will boost the budget deficit too, and higher pressure will be on for more taxes. And again, Maryland can't afford that. The D.C. government did a study of tax burdens around the country in 50 cities. Whether you make 50 grand or 250 grand, Baltimore is one of the worst cities in America for a taxpayer to live.
I think we need to acknowledge that schools across the state of Maryland, as well as law enforcement, are facing some serious challenges. So, in your opinion, what is the most constructive way for the governor to balance the state's needs amid the fiscal challenges in Maryland?
Well, the so-called blueprint was already a very generous expansion in K-12 education. Going beyond that at a time when there are other challenges to the state seems terribly ill-advised. Unless Maryland gets control of its spending in all areas, pensions, education, law enforcement, all the people in this state are going to suffer because there are going to be across-the-board mindless cuts in spending, huge additional tax increases that are only going to drive more people out of the state. We calculated right now that a taxpayer leaves the state of Maryland every 20 minutes. There are only 4 other states in this country that have worse outmigration. People know Maryland is in trouble, and they're fleeing this state. We need more taxpayers coming in here, not fewer.
Yeah, I did some reporting on that myself. Pete Sepp, we thank you very much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.